Hello, I'm Chris Barrow with the BBC News. President Putin has said talks with France's President Macron on the tensions surrounding Ukraine have been useful and substantive. Russia has amassed more than 100,000 troops on the Ukrainian border. James Landell reports.
After almost 5 hours of talks, Presidents Macron and Putin emerged to make clear they believed there were potential diplomatic ways of reducing tensions over Ukraine. Mr. Putin said NATO's so-called open-door membership policy was a threat to Russia's security. But he also said a number of the French president's ideas on European security were possible and realistic and could lay down the foundation for future action. For his part, Mr. Macron said differences remained, and he insisted security could not be provided by cancelling the right of countries to join NATO. But he also proposed concrete security guarantees for Russia during the talks, and said there were points of convergence between both sides.
President Biden says diplomacy remains the best way to resolve the Ukraine crisis, but the US and its allies would be ready if Russia invaded. He was speaking after talks at the White House with the German Chancellor Olaf Scholz. Mr. Biden promised that a crucial gas pipeline between Russia and Germany, known as Nord Stream 2, will be shut down if Moscow further invades Ukraine. From Washington, Barbara Pletasher reports.
Germany's new Chancellor Olaf Scholz is making his first trip to Washington amid criticism of a weak response to the Ukraine crisis. Republican members of Congress have portrayed Berlin as a brake on sanctions because of its interest in maintaining gas imports from Russia. After meeting the Chancellor, President Biden insisted that Nord Stream 2 would not become operational if Moscow invaded Ukraine. Mr. Scholz did not go that far, citing the need for strategic ambiguity, but he stressed that the US and Germany would be absolutely united in taking the same steps in response to any invasion, and that these steps would be very, very hard.
The US Secretary of State, Antony Blinken, says America and the European Union are coordinating their efforts to share energy reserves were Russia to cut gas supplies to the EU. Earlier, the head of the European Commission said there were growing signs that Russia was using energy as a tool to exert political pressure. Ursula von der Leyen said it was strange that the Russian energy giant Gazprom had chosen not to increase deliveries through a key pipeline to Europe at a time of huge demand and record prices. The United States has offered a reward of up to $10 million for information leading to the identification or location of the leader of the Islamic State militant group in Afghanistan. Washington believes Sanaullah Ghaffari was responsible for a deadly bomb attack on Kabul airport last August during the US military-led evacuation of the city after it fell to the Taliban. This is the World News from the BBC. Britain's Prime Minister is under renewed pressure to withdraw his smear against the opposition Labour leader Keir Starmer, who's been harassed by protesters in London. Boris Johnson has been heavily criticised for his false claims in Parliament that Mr Starmer failed to prosecute the serial sex offender Jimmy Savile while he was Director of Public Prosecutions. Savile's name was shouted as a crowd swarmed around the opposition leader, shouting "traitor." The Prime Minister called the scenes disgraceful, but has still not apologised over his false claim. Our political editor, Laura Koonsberg, is following developments.
There are Conservatives who are unhappy about the fact that he made those claims in the first place, unhappy that he has not withdrawn them fully, who still want him to apologise. And it's made this another torrid night after a very, very bumpy week for the Prime Minister, just at the point when Number 10 had very much hoped to move on.
Kenya's Forest Service says a huge fire that raged for 3 days through the Aberdare Game Reserve has been extinguished. More than 6 square kilometres of bushland were destroyed. The mountainous park is home to leopards, elephants and critically endangered black rhinos. Conservationists say the fire might have been started by people in the area, which has been ravaged by drought. Gunmen have attacked a private radio station in Guinea-Bissau days after a failed coup attempt. Shots were fired, causing panic in the capital Bissau. A manager of Capital FM said equipment was destroyed and staff were beaten with guns. The station is highly critical of the government. At least 11 people died in last week's attempted coup. Ecstatic fans are on the streets of the Senegalese capital Dakar to welcome home the national squad, which has won the Africa Cup of Nations for the first time. Huge crowds of people danced and sang as the victory bus paraded through the streets. And that's the latest BBC News.